Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Rudy, how you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. We got
This is a
some
big
stuff coming
episode
up.
here
Yeah, we
because
we
this
don't got too many left.
well yeah, no, like I was just looking now actually. By the time this comes out, this episode, there will be um NHL games going on. It's kind of the start of the preseason a little bit. Starts tomorrow with the LA Kings and Arizona Coyotes playing their global series. Um Is it in it is in Australia. Um, so,
All right.
NHL preseason's kind of getting underway. That's the only game taking place tomorrow in our area. It is a 10:05 p.m. start time. So it is, quite late game, just, with it being Australia and all. But
Thank God
then,
it's on a Friday at least, or
yeah.
on the weekend.
Well, and for people saying that, that well, actually, no, everybody does say the Arizona Coyotes get a lot of love from Bettman. But yeah, so they play the Global Series tomorrow versus LA. And then on Saturday, they actually have three more preseason games going on. They have two games against the St. Louis Blues. I'm assuming I don't know how they're doing this, to be honest. They must have I don't know I don't know what's going on here, but it says they play three times tomorrow. Twice
On
against
the
the
same day.
Blues. Yeah, and then once more against the LA Kings.
I wonder if two of them
Um,
are their prospect teams.
it has to be something like that, and it has to be like they're sending um they can only send a certain amount to Australia. It's not like whole like everybody's going, so they probably only got maybe I don't know 20, 22, 23 guys going over there, and then a couple sub out between the games, and then I think it's the majority and the bulk of everybody else is staying behind, and it's you know whatever 36, so 18 and 18, playing in those other two. I'm not really sure, but anyways, and then it's Sunday when every other team is kind of brought into the mix more, with quite a few preseason games going on, starting from Sunday onward.
Yeah, it'll be. God, it's so nice that hockey's almost back, man.
Yeah.
God, especially after the short off seasons in recent memory, like this summer really dragged on, not getting to watch any
Yeah.
hockey.
Well, and especially like what we talked about before, where it, August, for the most part, like really just kind of felt like a dead month. Like I know there was times when we weren't even planning on doing the whole, division by division breakdown. We kind of just that was a spur of the moment idea we thought of because we were like, shit, like um
We can't just do
what do we
trivia
do? Well,
every single
and that's
podcast.
the
Like we
thing
want to
is
do
I
something.
still yeah, like I still have the files from one episode that we that didn't end up getting into the fold to coming out just because we started doing the divisional breakdowns. But that was a whole episode just around us kind of doing like trivia games and whatnot because we had nothing that we could really talk about. So it's nice now that from this point on forward, for the foreseeable future, we'll have lots to talk about and cover and keep us entertained and keep you guys entertained for listening.
We want to start with one of
Let's
the quicker ones.
let's just start with Babs.
Okay.
We might as well just rip the Band-Aid off and talk about it.
Yeah, that's fair. So, it was about maybe a little less than a week ago, on the what is it, Ray Whitney and Biz Nasty's
Spittin'
podcast,
Chicklets.
Spittin' Chicklets. All I could think of was the pink Whitney vodka. that he sells.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah, on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, did they have a certain guest on that started talking about it? Like, didn't they have like Boone Jenner on or something? Or did they just start
I
talking about it?
I think they just started talking about it.
Yeah, and
I didn't
his
really
was
watch the whole clips. I've just kind of heard what was said. I didn't do my homework and
yeah,
watch it. So
yeah. I haven't watched it. I'm personally not a huge fan of their podcast. I'm sure it's fine for the most part, but I'm not a massive fan of their personalities. They're a bit more brash than I prefer. But they Biz Nasty was saying that uh, I believe he said several. He would never name players, which is good because you don't want to just throw somebody under the bus, right? But he said several players from within the organization had contacted him and said that like what's going on with Babcock and asking to see people's phones and look at their pictures of their families and stuff is really weird. And so that came out, and immediately everyone was like, all right, so Babcock is a creep, he's a weirdo. And everyone just thought that without any information because Babcock has a history of doing that kind of thing, you know, like the Marner and ranking who puts in the most effort with the Leafs and stuff. But
yeah,
then so many people, you know, Kekalainen came out and said it wasn't weird at all. Goudreau, Boone Jenner, Werenski, a lot of the stars were saying, no, it wasn't weird at all. But then it did come out after a pretty quick investigation that a lot of the organization people and the lower down the lineup people and the fringe NHLers and the young guys were saying, yeah, it really felt like a power move.
yeah. When it first started, it was a lot of kind of the big guys of the team, the leaders. Like you said, Boone Jenner, Goudreau. I don't know if Werenski made a comment or anything. I don't think he did.
I thought I
Um,
heard he did, but I definitely know the other two did.
but yeah, even their GM Kekalainen said, he went through it with Babcock and he saw no issue. Um, but then then it comes out that he was essentially taking advantage of uh, the younger players on the team, kind of similar to what we saw with Toronto and Mitch Marner. He, rather than, no vet would let him get away with it. So he had to go to a young guy. Not necessarily Marner wasn't a rookie at the time, but some of these guys with Columbus are. And he took advantage of them. And I mean, yeah, like when it first came out, it didn't seem too bad. But hearing the story of the player is a we don't know who the player is, but what was said from the player was he was invited out for lunch with Babcock,
Yeah,
and he's like, okay, like
at
coach wants to
Babcock's
take me
house.
out.
It was to Babcock's house apparently.
Oh, well, that's even worse. But then
Yeah,
it ended
right.
up just being he sat down, Babcock took his phone, scrolled through not only his pictures but messages and just personal stuff on his phone, and then told them to leave. Like he didn't even get
And
to have lunch with them or
yeah,
anything.
just sent him right home. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are speculating. You know, was he looking for dirty pictures? Is he trying to get dirt on the players? Maybe, but I don't necessarily think it's that. I think it's more of he knows, especially with younger people, that phones are very private. And it's just a power move for him to be like, give me your phone. Now I'm going to look through whatever I want, and you're going to sit there and like it. And like,
Yeah.
this isn't insanely egregious in a bubble, but given Babcock's history, I think it's pretty safe to say that we know this would be him building up that power before he would do something more egregious next time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. So, um, the other big thing I think that kind of for me, now that the situation is passed, my biggest takeaway is the fact that I don't know who said it, but I know it was said because it was brought into the discussion of it all. But it was revolving, around kind of um, Werenski, Boone Jenner, Goudreau, because Boone Jenner's the captain, and then uh, the assistant captains. But it was brought up that when they were talking about how they didn't find any issues with the situation, And they said, if our younger players who don't feel comfortable, speaking to management or anything about it, we know that they're comfortable coming and talking to us about it and letting us know about the situation if it was perceived like in a negative way to them. Not a
Yeah.
single player came to them
Yeah.
because they backed Babcock right up until he was gone.
And
So now
so,
that brings the whole question in of, well, now what do you do if you're Columbus? Because you've clearly got your three leaders in the room that your younger players don't feel comfortable with. They don't feel comfortable confiding in them or telling them about a situation that made them extremely uncomfortable within that team.
yeah,
And so
I,
that's a big issue for Columbus now as well.
yeah, I really hope that it's like, and I'm sure that it is. I like to give those guys the benefit of the doubt. Goudreau, Jenner. They've been around the block, and Boonjemmer, and they seem like good guys. I like to think that just Babcock did it in a very casual way, and he wasn't pushy with them on purpose, so that they, wouldn't make a big deal out of it as the leaders of the locker room. I really hope that they weren't sitting there and going, guys, just be cool with it. We got a new coach. This is just how things are. Like, hopefully they weren't putting, the organization or just keeping the peace above people's comfortability. I don't think that's what they were doing, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's just a very messy situation, especially when, it, it looks like maybe things are slowly starting to turn for Columbus. They got Goudreau. Um, they've got a bunch of great young prospects coming up. They managed to snag Fantilli in the draft. You think they finally have, their head coach of the future and in a good head coach in Mike Babcock, personal, um, life aside, he's still a good coach and
He gets
good at
results
running a
for his
team.
teams.
Exactly. And you're in a point now where, okay, within a span of, 2 days, the story kind of came out and he's gone. So now right before training camp, you're bringing in another guy to take the reins for them, and now you've potentially got these leadership issues in the locker room. It's just like just when things were slowly starting to turn for them, they've taken a couple steps back now, and so it's going to be interesting to see, especially throughout just training camp and then early on in the season, how they come out and you know what kind of identity do we end up seeing from this team? Because the whole identity that they had and were on is completely going to have to be changed now as a team, just based on a span of, you know, three days or so.
Yeah, it's I really hope that they can pull things together and make things work. I really hope that it doesn't cause too much rift in the locker room, but you never know where people's heads at. We're not in there, Um, and you know what? Like I said, I'm not a huge fan, but good for Biz Nasty for getting these reports and not just being a hockey guy, not being a boys club guy, and actually bringing it out and saying, "Hey, he's doing messed up stuff. Let's get somebody on that." So it's good that they caught that before the season started, and the mind games really began with Babcock in that locker room.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, all right. Well, I don't really have much more to say on it. It's kind of,
No, I think we
um,
covered it
it's an unfortunate
to the best of our
situation.
knowledge.
Yeah, it is, over and done with now. So the Blue Jackets can move forward in whatever direction they can, and that's really all there is to it now at this point.
Yeah. Um, Moving on, we got as far as I can remember, only two, but we got two new captains in the league from our last
Yep,
episode.
the
Uh,
two captains that squared off. Well, not they weren't captains at the time, but they were on the teams when Boston and St. Louis went head to head in the Cup final a couple years ago.
yeah, the Bruins named Brad Marchand their captain, and the Blues named Braden Shen their captain.
How crazy is that to think that? Well, what was it? Was it 18 or 19? They were in the Cup finals against each other.
I believe 19.
Yeah, would have. Yeah, 19. Yeah, that's crazy to think now. So what? 4 years ahead, they're now on their third captain since then. Like both of them, St. Louis
Yeah,
went from Petrangelo to O'Reilly, now to Shen, and then Boston's gone from Chara to Bergeron to Marchand.
yeah, which is wild because not only are they on both on the third one in that time frame, but those second ones for both teams were like pretty loved by the fans.
Yeah,
Brian
they're
O'Reilly
number one
and
centers.
especially Patrice Bergeron.
They
The
play
fans
similar
loved them as
games.
captains.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a little different times for these two teams now. But what are your initial thoughts on these two choices?
I've seen nothing but happiness from Blues fans and fans all of the NHL over Braden Shen being the captain. I'm not incredibly familiar with his game, but it sounds like he's just a heart and soul guy that'll go in and fight for any one of his guys, and it just sounds like he's just incredible in the locker room on
He
all
really
accounts.
is. Yeah, he is.
And yeah, I've seen nothing but people happy for it and happy for him. So as far as I can see, it's a great pick.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick for the Blues. I also personally believe it was really kind of the only um, option they really had that made sense.
Yeah,
But nonetheless, like it's still a phenomenal pick to have Shen, lead your team through what's probably going to be a couple years of struggling. But nonetheless, it is a
unless you
great
have them
choice.
making the playoffs this year.
Yeah, like you do, for whatever reason.
Yeah, we'll see how
Um,
badly that ages.
and then even Marchand, I think, is a great pick. Again, it's one of those tough ones for Boston because Chara held it for so long. So then by the time Bergeron got it, he only got a short
I think you got only
tenure
2
with
years.
it, and then
Like,
now Bergeron's gone. Marchand gets it, but Marchand's 35. So how long does Marchand have it? It's
yeah,
just tough for guys like that could have gotten it way earlier. And it's just, they kind of had to go through and wait their turn in line. But nonetheless, I think it's a great pick for the Bruins as well.
yeah, I think they have in mind that they know it's not going to be Marchand for too long. I do wonder if it's going to go to Pasternak or if it's going to go to McAvoy after that. I would imagine it's one of those two.
My guess, it's probably going to be McAvoy.
I would think that's the better pick.
Yeah.
On my fairly surface knowledge of the personalities there. Pasternak seems like one of those guys that would just be happy having an A for the majority of his career.
He reminds me a lot of like a Artemi Panarin.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, he's going to be the best player on the ice for your team. But I just don't think it's one of those things again, kind of like Pedersen. I just don't think he necessarily cares about it. Panarin to Pasternak, they just kind of got that like goofball energy almost, which, we don't see guys like that getting to see very often. They want someone that's a little more just kind of composed, hard nosed, and
yeah. They have to
kind
be
of more
very composed
professional.
a lot of the time, which is funny that we're saying that given that Marchand got it.
Talking about Marchand,
But
exactly.
but like you can't have a guy who's too free spirit with it, but you also can't have a guy who's too aggressive with it. Some other guys like Draisaitl, Kucherov, Malkin. I feel like a lot of these guys are guys that are happy being career guys to have an assistant captaincy and never really care about the C.
Exactly, yeah.
They just it just doesn't mesh with everyone's personalities, and it doesn't have to.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's great choices by both teams. I'm excited to see how each team does next season with these guys leading the team. We've seen it in the past where certain guys as captain, just it doesn't mesh well. They don't get the most out of the team. So it's just gonna be interesting to see what can happen with these guys kind of taking over that locker room and leading the way for the boys.
I really want to know what some of the refs think around the league. If any of them are like, "Oh, great, have to talk to Marchand whenever something goes on with the Bruins this year.
I honestly believe they all are probably like, you know what, he deserves it. I think as
Yeah.
much shit as Marchand puts the refs through and whatnot, I bet at the end of the games, the refs, when they're all back in their locker room, whatever, I bet they're like, man, that Marchand guy he goes 110% all the time. And I think they do have a lot of, I bet like someone probably get pissed off from time to time with whether he's licking guys or kissing them or talking back to the ref. But they have such a tremendous respect for him. I'd be shocked if there was one ref that didn't have just a crazy amount of respect for Marchand.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I feel like it would never come up in the regular season. But maybe if it's like the same ref doing like all 7 games of a playoff series, maybe around game 5 or 6, he's like, I'm really talking to this guy about his own penalty again.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're dealing with him a bunch of times in a row, maybe. But I'd be interested to know if there's any refs who feel differently than just having that respect for him. But,
yeah, exactly.
but other than that, we don't have much else to talk about other than the Stamkos contract talks, I guess.
Yeah, I'll let you kind of take the helm for that because obviously you know way more about Tampa Bay's situation and Stamkos' situation, and whatnot. So you probably got a lot more insight on this.
Yeah, it pretty much all started yesterday. I think it all started coming out. Not to date us too much, but they basically Stamkos came out and said that he was, he was a little upset. I don't even know if he said upset or if it was just disappointment that there's basically been 0 extension contract extension talks with him in the offseason here. And I think I saw it floating around on a YouTube thumbnail. I don't know if it was an actual quote, but I know there was one of those big clickbaity things with Stamkos's face and the quote beside it that said, I can't write myself a contract. And it does sound like that's how he's feeling. And pretty quick after he posted that, whether he said in an interview or posted a tweet, it was like 3 hours after that went public that Julie Brisebois, the GM for the Lightning, came out and had this big post on X, on old Twitter, and it was a lot of just talking in circles a bit and being like, Stamkos is great. He's one of the best captains and he's an incredible player, but we don't know what our cap situation is going to be like, and we want to know what it's going to be like before we re-sign him. So it sounds like Brisebois wants to wait until the next offseason to start doing that. And I, as a Lightning fan, I really hope that's not the case. There was a lot of people debating online the other day, talking about it, being like, is he right to do this or not? And there was a lot of Tampa fans saying, you know what, just freaking re-sign him. Even if the contract ages badly, we don't care. And it was really interesting because there was so many fans, like there was a lot of Pittsburgh fans being like, I agree with this. If I don't care if we're garbage for the next 5 years because Crosby's contract is a boat anchor, we want Crosby to retire a Penguin. And it's funny because, the Penguins also have many cups recently. And so they kind of are in a similar thinking situation. But then there's a lot of like Toronto fans that were like, man, if Austin Matthews was a boat anchor contract, I would want him.
Well, that's even the way I felt with.
With Joe Thornton.
No, with kind of Joe Thornton, but more so it was Joe Pavelski.
Right.
When it was talks between, and his was even more reasonable because I think it was only $7 million or something like that, and he wanted 3 years, and the Sharks weren't willing to budge on 2, and so it came down to a 1-year difference. He ended up walking, and he's gone on to just be phenomenal with Dallas. And I think that was a big part of San Jose's downfall was losing a guy like Pavelski, and
Yeah. Well, especially for nothing.
yeah, and I don't think his like, especially now when we've seen him, re-up with Dallas on just incredible deals. Looking back, it's like it wouldn't even been a anchor for the Sharks or anything. You would
No,
have
because
got great value for those
he's
3 years.
fighting against age and winning. Like,
Yeah,
it's so funny that 1 year was the difference on a guy like Joe Pavelski's contract. Meanwhile, he's been like the best aging player that I can think of in recent memory, maybe only other than Bergeron.
he gets
Like,
better with age. Like, it's crazy.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah, it was interesting though. Yeah, because Stamkos said he wanted to have his contract done before training camp, and then he was still even asked now. Is it now going to be something you think about during the season, or do you visit it in the off season? And he said he was ready to get talking whenever. He's always ready.
yeah, it sounds like he's ready to go. And I was, as soon as I heard that Stamkos's comments, I was like, you know what? Hagel's contract just got signed. Let's give Brisebois a second, and then I'm sure it'll get done. But no, apparently he wants to wait till next offseason. At least that's very much what it sounded like in his comments. So
And I don't
hopefully he
even know
changes his
why.
mind, or maybe I wonder if he thinks that he just wants to know exactly how much the cap is going to go up this next offseason and offer it from there. I don't know if he's hoping Stamkos maybe takes a small step back, or like his production drops so that
I think
he can
that's what
get him
he's
on a
hoping
cheaper
for.
deal. I don't know, but
But the thing is he hasn't even talked to Stamkos yet to just be
yeah,
like, what are you kind of thinking? Because for all we know, Stamkos could be like,
Stamkos could
I'm.
be sitting there giving him a freebie. He could be like, yeah, sign me for $2 million for 2 years
I was
or
gonna
something
say
like that.
even something maybe like a 4x4 or something. But it's
Yeah,
like Brisebois doesn't even know what he's maybe working with, because Stamkos could go out and easily drop 50 goals and 100 points, and now it's like he could be like, you know what? I want to stay at whatever what is he making right now? 8 mil? He could be like, I want to
8.5
stay
mil.
at, he could say, I want to stay at 8.5 for say 3 years. So
Yeah.
Brisebois could, it doesn't hurt to even just check in and be like, what are you kind of thinking
Yeah.
for a contract? So
And you know what? As things are right now, if he announced right now 3 years, 8.5 mil, I'd be over the moon with that. Like, dude took
yeah,
such a discount to stay with us back in free when he signed this contract that is now expiring at the end of the season. And like that, him signing so cheap was so core to us winning those 2 cups. He signed
yeah,
for like 2 to 3 million less than what was reportedly being offered out there by like the Maple Leafs and other teams. And he chose to take a discount and stay with us. And because of that, Hedman took a discount. He's still got 2 years left at 7.875. We've had Hedman
yeah,
on a steal of a contract for years, very much in thanks to Stamkos's discount. And because of that, we've got guys like Vasilevsky, Kucherov, Point. None of them are making 10 mil or more. Like, I think he really was the first guy to get the dominoes falling for us to build such an incredible team, other than
yeah,
obviously the great drafting. And if we keep him at the same value, hell, he just arguably his last 2 years are two of his best years he's ever had. Like 2 years ago when he put up I think 42 goals and 106 points. That's arguably better than his 60 goal a year. Like, it's at least
yeah.
in the conversation. So he's definitely still worth 8.5 as it is right now. So I trust Brisebois, but I tell you what, I said that after the Tanner Jeannot trade, and I very genuinely meant it. I'm saying it with a little hesitancy now, because my God, like nobody wants to lose Stamkos.
Yeah,
Like, that would suck.
again, especially for nothing, right? Like,
Yeah, all franchise leader in points, in goals. Uh, it, he's I don't know if he's games played, but if not, he's close, and he'd make it this season.
well, and let's be real. Like, if Stamkos is gone, like if a deal doesn't get done and he walks, there's a very good chance he goes to Toronto next year.
Oh yeah.
And so now if you're Tampa Bay, not only do you just lose, your leader of the last, decade, your franchise leader in like damn near everything. Also,
Yeah.
now it's like now he's on our, what's quickly becoming one of Tampa's biggest rivals in Toronto. So it's like, they got to figure something out because, again, Sergachev, um, I think he said in a comment or something before training camp, he said anything um, short of the winning the cup this year is a failure for us or something like that. So Tampa
Yeah.
Bay's clearly all in on winning. So you're not going to trade Stamkos at the deadline or anything. You're going to keep him, for the entire season, if you're going for it. So, but then again, that's
Yeah.
when you run into the risk of losing him. So it's just like you got to get something figured out. Like talks got to at least start at some point coming up soon to go all season. Well, I mean, even I get kind of different situations, whatnot, but even look at Goudreau with Calgary. He was open to signing and whatnot,
Yeah.
and then he was never really offered a contract, and talks never picked back up. So felt like he wasn't wanted there.
Yeah.
And so I hope that's not come with Tampa Bay. I'd be shocked if they go the whole season and there's no talks or they're getting close to anything.
Yeah. I wonder if he's just if he's so confident, because he came off as very confident that something would get done next offseason and he would come back.
Yeah.
But that's quite a gamble to take, even though if he really thinks it's going to happen, like what's the win condition for that? Does he think that if Alex Barré-Boulet comes up from the minors and does really well with us, and what does he think he's going to sign him to a big deal, and then
Yeah.
Stamkos is gone? Like, is that, if that's the
Well,
best case scenario he's thinking of, then that's
and
pretty
even
rough.
this though, like to anybody who, because I know there's obviously going to be people out there. It's like, oh, Stamkos isn't the type of guy to, leave Tampa and go to the rival in Toronto. But like, think of it this way: at the end of the season, Stamkos is going to be 34. So he's, if he re-ups with Tampa again, he's really not going to ever have an opportunity to play for Toronto. So does he almost kind of look at it like, if Tampa Bay doesn't want me, if Toronto, say they make the Eastern Final this year or something, and then he's sitting there like, I could go there, and whatever, they probably, like, he could probably sign like a $5 million 3-year deal there, assuming that Nylander might be gone and Domi, Bertuzzi, etc. But he could be looking at like, I could be the last piece of the puzzle to finally go there, and I could be that final piece to get a cup for Toronto. So kind of similar to what Tavares thought he was doing. But
Yeah.
realistically, like if you've got Marner, Matthews, maybe Nylander, if they find a way to keep him, Tavares and Stamkos, like fuck.
Yeah.
Like it
You might
becomes
as well
more
be playing
enticing
the
as
Eastern
the season
All-Stars.
goes. Yeah, so it becomes more enticing for him the longer the season goes on, and because I think Toronto realistically could finish top of the Eastern Conference. Goaltending is a big thing for them, but aside from that,
Yeah.
so it like if Toronto's just doing good, it keeps becoming more and more enticing for Stamkos as the season goes on.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that maybe he's thinking of making a big move at the deadline, and maybe he's worried that he'll pick up a guy that's really good but expensive and on a 2-year deal or something. So I'm hoping that, if that doesn't happen, that like right after the trade deadline, he's like, all right, let's get something signed then. If the trade didn't happen, let's go for it. But yeah,
Okay,
he's
I've got a
his cards
hypothetical
a
here
bit
for you.
close to his chest.
I'm gonna make your brain hurt here.
Oh no.
Let me just find it here. Just kind of see what I'm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna list off some players that play for Tampa.
Yeah.
And you're gonna tell me whether or not you would move them if it meant that they could re-sign Stamkos. Because say assume the cap doesn't go up or something, and then to re-sign Stamkos, they've got to move somebody out.
Okay, so assuming we're not talking about no trade clauses, like none of that.
Yeah.
So it's basically just you only get to keep one of these players, Stamkos or whoever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna do Kucherov or Point because I know in Tampa Bay right now they would 100% pick those guys over Stamkos. So that's just kind of unrealistic.
Yeah.
Anthony Cirelli, which is a weird one because his 8-year deal just started, but he's also got no movement clause, no trade clauses, nothing. So they could move him at any point.
That one is rough. Stamkos obviously has a higher ceiling, even right now at his age. If we're looking to be hyper competitive right now, I think it's better to keep Stamkos. Obviously, it's a lot better for the team long term to keep Cirelli, but to win right now, keeping Stamkos is better. And so, it's kind of a now versus later thing, which kind of is a bit of a tie for me. But the tiebreaker is if Stamkos stays, he's getting a statue outside Amalie. So
Okay.
I'd have to go with keeping Stammer.
Nick Paul.
Definitely Stammer.
Yeah,
Nick
I kind of
Paul.
figured with that one.
Nick Paul's really good, and he's really fun to watch play. But it's not much of a comparison there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do Hagel because again, his 8-year extension hasn't even kicked in yet. So, and they signed him prior to Stamkos, so there's no way they'd move him.
Yeah.
That
one's even closer than Cirelli, though. I think personally,
these are kind of the three that I'm most curious about. So Victor Hedman.
I think you'd.
I think you have to keep Hedman.
Is this what I want, or is this what I think the team would do?
What you want. Like if you had to pick, if they asked you and were like, you make the decision for us type of thing.
God, that is.
I think you have to keep Hedman.
Yeah. Hedman definitely makes the team better in more ways.
And it's way easier to find a Stamkos replacement, I think, than it is to find a Hedman replacement.
Absolutely. There's not a lot, but there's a couple Stamkoses around the league that you could reasonably get. You're not finding a Hedman replacement.
Yeah, no. Mikhail Sergachev.
It's a very similar conversation to Hedman. A lot closer, especially after last year. Hedman took a bit of a step back. Sergachev took a pretty big step forward. I think I'd have to go Sergachev.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's that good.
And then lastly, Eric Chernak.
I would probably go
Chernak.
I think I would probably go Stamkos on that, only because of the structure of the team right now. That Chernak is most of the time playing on the third defensive pair, even though they kind of roll all three lines. Only because there's already Sergachev and Hedman above him.
I guess they're all lefties. No, because Chernak's a righty.
Chernak's on the right, but they like to split them up because
space them out. Yeah.
Because realistically, we have 3 really good defense, and then 3 guys that we're kind of slotting in that are good enough, but like they're definitely not top tier players. And so we've kind of got Chernak, Sergachev, and Hedman each anchoring one of the players, and then Calvin DeHaan, Nick Perbix, Darren Radish, Bogosian. None of those guys are gonna. You don't want any of those 4 guys to be the best guy on their pair.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that was my fun little game. Woo. Anything more you want to add on for the Stammer situation, or?
Only that I just brought up the stats here, and Stamkos is at 1,003 games played, just 34 behind Vinny Lecavalier at 1,037 for all-time lead in games played. So he'll pass that. He's already the franchise leader by over 120 in goals. He is, what is that? 43 behind St. Louis for all time in assists. St. Louis at 588, Stammer's at 541, and then Stammer already leads all time in points. So that's pretty rough to just let walk, right? Like it'd be rough to
Yeah.
trade as well, but like that's it
Yeah.
feel like I don't want to sound like one of those entitled guys, but like it feels like the fans deserve to see Stamkos play here his entire career.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Especially after how the St. Louis thing ended. Like it would suck to see, St. Louis soured on us a bit at the end, and they've since made up with the org, but it kind of was left weird for a long time. And if we had a similar situation with Stamkos, it would really be like, fuck, when are we gonna have our superstar just be here and fucking just play it out, and we all have a good time,
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, Tampa really didn't get, like some teams where when a guy has been there for almost his whole career and then leaves and then, maybe comes back at the end for one season or something. Or maybe I just got lucky with that with Patrick Marleau in San Jose. But they never even got that with St. Louis either. It was,
No.
Just kind of a clean cut break and off, and that it was that was it. So hopefully we don't see that happen with Stamkos.
Yeah, they didn't really kind of make nice until after a couple of years after, I believe, St. Louis retired.
Yeah,
So
it took a while. It did.
um,
It did take a while.
since I have it open, I'm just gonna throw this at you because it's just jumping out at me a little bit. I'm gonna give you. Can I find a third one? Not that's interesting. I'm gonna give you two. Where on all-time points leaders for Tampa Bay, what number do you think Mikhail Sergachev and Anthony Cirelli are?
For all-time points?
All-time points.
Ooh, how many guesses do I get? Give me 3.
Yeah.
I can get 3 wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Shit, I'm just trying to think. Cirelli must have more points than Sergachev. But I don't know.
Definitely a possibility.
It's like, fuck, Sergachev popped off last year. And he's been around, I think, longer. So maybe Sergachev is higher.
Sergachev
I'm gonna
got
go
into the league really young. I'm pretty sure he played like the first year he was eligible in for a bit in Montreal, and then like immediately came over and played for Tampa in at least like 50 games or something.
Sergachev, I'm gonna say, I feel like that. I don't know if that's high or not. 14.
That is higher than where he is.
It is higher.
You got 2 left.
Am I warm at least?
You're warm. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Cirelli at 20.
He is very close to that. That was a very good guess.
Is that higher or lower?
Cirelli is lower.
Cirelli's lower than 20?
Yeah.
Okay. So then my final guess, because I can only get one wrong, so I'm just gonna throw both out at once.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do Sergachev at 15 and Cirelli at 22.
You were really close. Sergachev is 17th overall
17.
already.
17th.
And Cirelli is 21.
Cirelli's 24. Oh, 21. Damn. So I almost got... Okay. Wow.
Sergachev has exactly 50 more points than Cirelli, if my math isn't bad. Cirelli's at 188. Sergachev's at 238.
Yeah, the more I started to think about it, I was like, you know what? They're probably actually a little bit further apart than you'd think. Just, yeah, because Sergachev's been around a lot longer. And what do you have last year? Like 65 points or something? I don't think Cirelli's ever sniffed that.
He got pretty close to 70.
Yeah, Cirelli's never even sniffed 60, I don't think.
I don't think so. I think he might have a 50 point season. Oh, that's
his highest is 44.
44.
Yeah, so yeah.
in 68 games played.
That's pretty good though for them.
I was
already.
wondering. I was going to say he's never one of those guys that's out for a long time, but it feels like he always gets a couple small injuries. Doesn't he? Hasn't played 82 games in a season since 18-19.
So where does Kucherov, Point, and Hedman land on there?
Sergachev. Also, I just want to throw in Sergachev has 437 games played already. Dude's born the same year as me. That is nuts. Sorry, what were the names? Kucherov, Hedman, and Point.
Yeah, they all got to be in the top 10.
Yep. Point
maybe even top 5.
Point isn't. Kucherov is 4th with 729, and Hedman is 5th with 652.
So then it's Stamkos, LeCavier, and St. Louis above him.
Yeah. And then
good company to be in with.
Point is 8th with 463, but he's only 3 points behind Alex Killorn, who just got traded or just got signed by the Ducks in free agency, rather. So
yeah, he's almost caught Killer already.
He could pass him after the first game if he really pops off.
Realistically, could.
And he's only 20 some points back from Brad Richards, so he could be right behind Hedman. Couple, 20, 30 games into the season.
Yeah. So just kind of wrapping up the last of our talking points, because I know you had something you wanted to do at the end, but just the last one. So in the last episode we talked about, we talked quite a bit about Anaheim, and one of the topics was Jamie Drysdale and Trevor Zegras both don't have contracts yet. And, training camps have started for teams now, and Zegras is still without a contract. There has been reports about what the Anaheim Ducks are offering him.
Has there been any reports on what he's asking? I have not. I haven't seen any of this.
No, so there's nothing said about term of the deal yet, but apparently the Anaheim Ducks are only offering Zegras in the $3 million to $4 million range. Which leads me to believe it's probably like a bridge deal they're looking at.
Well, it has to be. No one's insane enough to be like, "Hey, Trevor Zegras, I know you were just on the cover of the NHL game, but signed here for 8 years at $5 million." Like, there's no way. There's no way they're doing that dirty.
Yeah, so I
would hope.
It's interesting because it's, it sounds like that's obviously not going to cut it at all. Which I don't know is then because we don't know anything about what Zegras wants, but so it's like, is Zegras wanting a bridge deal still in the $7 or $8 million range, or is he wanting a long-term deal? So it sounds like contract talks aren't doing the greatest. But just something that's interesting here that I found is, so this is like a breakdown of kind of like the big stars so far in the league from the 2019 draft, and it's just kind of a comparison between contracts for these players.
Okay.
So Jack Hughes in his first and second year in the league, he played 105 games. In total, he had 87 points.
Just under a point per game.
Yeah, so he signed an $8 million deal.
Yeah. Great contract, looks like right now.
Yeah, Dylan Cousins in his first and second year played 120 games, so 15 more than Hughes. He put up 51 points, so quite a bit lower than Hughes. He signed for 7.1, and these are all long-term deals, like 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8, yeah.
So, I mean, he played more games than Hughes, didn't put up as many points. He signed a 7.1. Matthew Boldy, in his first and second year, he only played 47 games, but he put up 39 points. So it's the exact same points per game as Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
He signed a $7 million deal per year. And then the last one, Zegras' buddy, he played 77 games in his first and second year, 48 points. He signed $7.9 million. And then lastly,
who was that?
Cole Caulfield.
Oh, Cole Caulfield, right.
And then Trevor Zegras, so he's played in years 1 and 2, 156 games. So that's 36 more than the next closest guy, Dylan Cousins. 126 points. So that's what is that? 39? About 40 more points than Jack Hughes. And he's only being offered 3.5. So he's in the area right now, looking just at these numbers here, to be in the, I mean, it's tough to say, I guess, because these guys signed their contracts really before they even popped off further. But like Zegras is in the, like, it's not crazy for him to ask 8.5 to 9 mil if he wants to sign a long-term deal.
Yeah, I was expecting an 8 to 9, like anywhere from 8 to 10, depending on what he and what the team want. Really, 10 would be a bit steep, obviously, for a younger guy. But
yeah, I don't think he gets up into the double digits. I think the very highest is probably 9.5. Just because the Ducks still do have to look at the situation of, okay, we still got to sign Drysdale. We've still got McTavish's contract that's going to be up soon. We still got to think about Leo Carlson in 3 years, assuming he plays this year, if not 4 years. But so those are all still things they have to consider. So I think the max they want to cap out at is 9.5 if it's a long-term deal. But I also see why they're doing a bridge deal, because then they know what they're working with when you got to sign. Like, assuming Drysdale is only going to be a bridge, and then you can work on figuring out getting, Zegras, McTavish, Carlson, and Drysdale, kind of your big core for the future, kind of all signed around like at the same time, and then you've got that core from their early mid-20s locked in for 7 or 8 years, and that's what you're running with, type of thing.
Well, what about Zegras? What about Zegras says that he's not going to be a star in this league? Like, I don't know why they don't just say, please take 8 times 8.
Yeah.
Like,
and I bet he would.
Why are you trying? Yeah, like, well, I don't know why they're trying to either extremely lowball him or bridge him. I don't know why you would be trying to bridge a player like this. It's like, it's very similar to Matthew Tkachuk. Like, I don't know. The signs are all there that he's going to be great. Just sign the freaking dude long term. I don't know. In the recent years, it feels like more and more teams are hitting it out of the park, signing some of these young studs long term, and very few of them are missing. So I don't know why. And all the times that guys are signing these bridge deals, they're either the guy ends up walking later, or they're jacking up their price, and then they're asking for a lot more money. So I'm not sure what the motivation for that really would be, but I don't know.
And I'm assuming something's going to get done at some point soon here, just because I don't think, well, maybe the Ducks do want to roll in the season without him if they're planning on tanking again. But yeah, you got to find a way to get him signed. It hasn't, like, there's nothing saying that he's going to be traded or anything, but there is reports saying that if, ties have been severed and contract talks get messy, to keep an out for Buffalo to sniff around, potentially making a move for Zegras if he becomes available.
Frick, that would be man. They got a lot of young talent. If they got Zegras, that would be a nasty looking team. How fun would it be to watch Zegras and Tage Thompson on the same line? One of them slides over the wing. Right? That would be incredible.
But so it's an interesting development, that situation where we thought it was going to be maybe a little bit easier for them to figure something out, but it's kind of looking like probably they're apart. I think maybe Zegras just wants to lock in long term, get that payday. The Ducks want to do a bridge deal for understandable reasons, but if you're the Ducks at the end of the day, like, Zegras kind of holds the cards, assuming he's okay with sitting out for an entire year or something. But like, I think the Ducks got to give him what he wants. If that's kind of your big future guy, you've got to You've got to sign him in at the end of the day. You can't wait around with it.
Yeah, God, I really don't know what they're thinking there. Like, you got a great guy, and he hasn't popped off yet like Jack Hughes did last year. Sign him before he puts up freaking 95 points next year and is saying, "Hey, give me 11 million or I walk." Like,
Yeah, exactly right.
just lock the dude in.
And he's only going to produce more as better talent gets around him. Like if McTavish takes that next step,
Their
or he
team
develops
isn't
a good
gonna. Their
chemistry
team's
with
not getting any
Carlson,
worse.
Exactly.
And he's only gonna get better. Like, everything's getting better around him, including himself. His point totals and goals are only going up. So this is the cheapest you're gonna get him.
Yeah, exactly. But aside from that, that was kind of the last, I think, of our main talking points before the NHL season, or preseason at least, gets underway tomorrow. But I know you did have something that you wanted to do at the end here.
Yeah, I've got a couple of little quick trivia things for you. We can just go through them fairly quick. This one I think has, it's got eight different things. It's most wins by a goalie in each decade in the NHL.
I think we did that one, didn't we?
We did most. I think you asked me most points or most goals.
Oh,
Quite a
that's
while
right.
ago.
Yeah.
This one was on Bar Down's Instagram, although it was like back in July or something. So if you have seen it, I figure you've probably forgotten about it, or maybe you haven't seen it.
No. No, I just saw the one of the
the
whatever the points one we did, or
so I've got that, and then I've got a question that we can end it off on.
Okay.
Just a bit of a thinker at the end.
Okay.
So this goes from the 2020s, the last 3 years, all the way back to the 1950s. Do you want to go recent to old or old to recent?
Let's go old to recent.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer that way as well. We don't need to spend too much time on each one, but I'll give you if you want to rattle them off fairly quick, we'll give you up to 5 guesses for each one. Because it is for over 10 years. So we'll start with the 1950s. Winningest goalie, 307 wins.
307 wins. In the 50s?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe like a Terry Sawchuk or something.
It is Terry Sawchuk.
I was gonna say it's like the only goal I could really think of from that. From that timeline.
Nicely done. Red Wings legend.
Yeah.
All right. 1960s, 253 wins. About 50 less than Sawchuk had.
Ooh. 60s. I don't really know many goalies in the 60s.
I probably would have got Sawchuk, I like to think. I don't know if I would have got this one. Maybe a Ken Dryden. I don't even know if he played in the 60s. Okay. Give me one more guess. Yeah. Can he do it?
I don't really know many from the 60s though.
It's a long time ago. I imagine it'll be a lot easier to make guesses in the 80s and forward. But
do you know at least what team he played on?
Yes. At least in the picture they got here. I'll tell you, in the picture, he's wearing a Chicago Blackhawks jersey. And then on when you Google him, he comes up wearing a St. Louis Blues jersey.
Hmm. Um. Was
I'm
he
gonna
50s or 60s?
I'm gonna
Is
have to
it
give you a
Glenn
countdown.
Hall?
It is Glenn Hall.
Oh, so he was 60s.
Yep,
Okay. Oh, well, there we go.
nicely done.
Those kind of
Nin-
now I'm kind of scraping where I don't know for the 70s.
1970s, 308 wins, one more than Sawchuk had in the 50s.
308. Um,
This
I'm,
is a
I'm
name.
gonna go.
This is
I'm
a good
I'm
one.
gonna go back to the well then, because it wasn't one of the other ones. Is it Ken Dryden?
No,
No. Okay.
he's not. Dryden not on the list.
Um. Oh, it'd probably be what's his name? Oh, what's his name? We're going back to Chicago again. Um. Uh. Tony Esposito.
It is Tony Esposito.
Yeah.
He's crushing it in the old decades as well, no less. All right, I would say this one's the hardest. 1980s.
1980s. Um.
251 wins. That's the second lowest total on the board. The lowest, of course, being 2020s because that's only 3 years worth of games.
Okay. Um. 80s.
I'll tell you, I knew
I'm not
every
even
name
sure.
on this list except for this guy when I first saw it.
Yeah, I'm kind of at a.
I did not know this name beforehand.
The only guy I can really think of is Ed Belfour, but I think he came in like really late in the 80s.
It
That's
is
really I don't
not
know. Is it?
Belfort.
Yeah. No, it's
No.
not. Um, I can't even think of anyone else really. It wouldn't be
No.
Patrick Waugh.
No.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it could be. Is it?
It is not.
Okay. Thought maybe if it was a lower amount of wins, maybe, but
Yeah.
uh, I got no idea.
It is Mike Lewitt.
Huh?
Liut. Mike Lute.
Mike Lute.
Yeah, it's got a picture of him playing on the Blues. I yeah, I
I'll be
definitely
honest.
know.
I've actually never even heard of him.
Yeah, I knew all the other names. I did not recognize his when
Yeah,
it showed up here.
yeah.
It's
Do
a
not recognize that name
good
at all.
freaking company to be in. 90s. We're gonna get
That's
a lot. It's gonna get a
that guy.
lot easier from here.
That guy probably just gets talked about like he's like that kid in school when you're doing a group project and his name's just on there, but he contributed like nothing. Because
Yeah,
I don't he like to lead an entire decade in wins, and I've
decade
never
wins.
heard of him is
The decade Gretzky played
pretty
in
impressive.
at his prime. Like,
So we're at the 1990s now.
yeah, should get a lot easier from here.
Yeah, this one will be Patrick Waugh then.
Yep, it is Patty Waugh at
Yeah,
309 wins, which is not the most on the board, but is the most so far.
well, because I know which one's probably the most on the board.
Yeah. 2000s.
Martin Brodeur.
Martin Brodeur at the most wins on the
Yeah.
board, 361.
Yeah,
Not even close. That's like 2 full seasons more than anyone else on the board.
yeah, he was
All
just
right.
a different animal.
Yeah. Played like 78 games a season. Like, he just played all the time.
That's why I think that record might honestly like just never get broken. Or maybe
think
just his games played.
I think it might if they ever just like if a goalie the caliber of a Sorokin or a Vasi is just like, coach, I want to be the best pick up some guy on League Min, and
It
he's
won't be
gonna only
maybe
play
fast.
if like
not Sorokin, just because Sorokin came in a little bit too late.
yeah, but like just like
I
if
do
you
get what
wanted
you're
to
saying.
pass all-time games played, he'd just have to be a guy who's like, coach, I'm playing every game, and he just has to be
Yeah.
the superstar goalie that where the coach is just like, you're the boss. Like,
Yeah.
that's the only way I could see it happening. But anyway, 2010s got some options here. At least a lot more reasonable options. You know, a lot more recent too.
So I'm kind of I've got a couple guys in my head. I'm just gonna do process of elimination.
All right.
So
I'm gonna give you 5 guesses.
5.
I don't. Is that
That's
too many?
money
Should
because
I give you 3?
I was gonna say I'm only thinking between 4 guys.
Oh, okay. I started thinking and I was like, fuck, there's a lot of good goalies, but some of them obviously didn't play for as good of teams.
Yeah, and exactly. That's why I'm like, I like a popular answer would be like, oh, Carey Price, but it's like Montreal failed to put a phenomenal team around him.
Did he ever play with a point per game player? Like,
no, he never did. Like that, like it's bad.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's not Jonathan Quick just because the Kings were booty for a couple years. I'm
gonna need first guess.
And I get 3 guesses.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess it's just now. Well, by my thing, I'm down to 3, so I'll just Marc-Andre Fleury.
It is Marc-Andre Fleury at 322 wins.
I was between him, Henrik Lundqvist. I think is probably got to be like pretty close to him, and then Pecorine I know was up there because he was like he just doesn't get the respect deserved, but like he was an animal.
He was one of the guys that I was thinking of originally, and then I was like, you know what? I don't know if Nashville won enough games.
Yeah, and like Fleury played just so much for the Penguins for years, and then even going to Vegas, like he was immediately like just playing absurd amounts because he was, their franchise player at the time. So
yeah. All right, and with 122 wins in 2020 and forward, up until the present,
I would be shocked if it's not Vasilevsky.
It is Vasilevsky.
Yeah, because if you said it wasn't, I probably honestly wouldn't have got that one.
Yeah.
So that's like the only guy.
The only other person I would even think to guess really is like, I guess, Hellebuck, just because.
But Winnipeg doesn't even log that many wins.
They don't win a lot, but like they have to have like 95% of their wins in the last 3 years have to have come from when he's playing.
Yeah,
right?
Actually, yeah.
They haven't, because they've had pretty bad backups a lot of the times, and he just steals a lot of games for him.
Yeah.
I don't know when it happened, but I feel like Hellebuck started getting a little underrated at some point.
Yeah, he doesn't get talked about as much as he should.
Yeah, he's always facing at like 1,000 more shots than any other goalie per season.
I think what's tough is
between the games played and just, I guess, Winnipeg lets a lot of shots on net.
Well, and even just, it was right when he like really just finally came into like his prime and whatnot. That's when you had all of a sudden like UC Saros and Thatcher Demko coming in. They're like, boom, like, these young elite goalies, and then Sorokin and Shesterkin both, come over from the KHL kind of around the same time. And so it's just like right when Hellebuck hit his peak and was like, a franchise goalie, he'd be number 1 in the league if it wasn't for Vasi. All these other goalies like all came in at the same time. And so kind of overshadowed him a bit. He still gets a lot of credit, and it is well deserved, but I don't think he gets as much as he should.
Yeah. And man, it's really nice that we're getting more goalies coming in, and we got a lot more elite goalie talent back in the NHL after a couple of years of a lot of the old guard had retired, and it was really just Vasi and a couple other, if you want to say Hellebuck was elite at that point, and a few others.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of good goalies, young goalies that are great in the league right now. And then you still got guys up and coming. Ottinger's primed to, if he puts together a good year all throughout, he could be a Vezina candidate. If Dustin Wolf comes in as gangbusters, like, he looks like he's going to be great. There's a lot of good goalie prospects right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for the league. It's starting to look at, like, in a situation where it's like, shit, like, all of a sudden you lose, like, Henrik Lundqvist, Braden Holtby, Jonathan Quick kind of.
Yeah, Tuukka Rask held on a bit longer than some of those guys, but, like,
Tuukka Rask, Roberto Luongo, even Corey
Pecorine.
Schneider, like, it was like bang, 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 like, all those guys.
Harry Price got kind of permanently LTIR'd.
Yeah.
I guess to end it off, I've got just one question for you.
Okay.
That is, I saw a lot of people talking about this online quite a while ago. I wrote down, and it's if you're a player in the NHL, would you rather have 3 MVP trophies, or would you rather have 3 Stanley Cups?
3 Stanley Cups. Not even a question.
So, I think this works a lot better if you put it into actual players. So, who has won 3 MVP trophies in, like, the last 20 years?
McDavid,
Crosby, and Ovechkin are the only 3 guys, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So McDavid hasn't won a cup. So let's say, I guess it's a little unfair because he's got so many, but
imagine just flexing and being Crosby. Because he's got both.
Yeah, right. So if, say, Ovechkin doesn't win the cup in 2018 with the Caps, and he goes down as one of the best players to ever play, but never win a cup, would you rather have that career or 3 Stanley Cups, no individual hardware? Would you rather be Pat Maroon?
Okay, but that's apples to oranges, man. Because, like, Ovi's lighting the league up year after year. Pat Maroon's playing 7 minutes and sucking down hot dogs in between periods.
But that's kind of the question, would you rather be a depth player and win 3 cups, or would you be? Do you want to be top dog? But
I mean, I would
never gets over the hump.
I would still be a Pat Maroon, a good heart and soul guy, and provides energy in the locker room and whatnot. Like,
yeah, I think it's a lot of people knee jerk are like 3 Stanley Cups. Come on, but the more you think about it a bit, I think it's closer than a lot of people think.
Why not something like a Jonathan Taves then? He doesn't have the MVPs, but he's got the 3 cups.
That's true. I just, in my mind, I think it's a little more fair if it's a bit of a.
He had to ruin some lives to get there, but he got there.
Not a Pat Maroon, I feel like, is a good comparison just because he's not an all-star as well, but he's not a fringe guy. He gets into 82 games a season. It's not Ryan Reeves riding the bench winning cups.
But is that a good comparison? Because he won like 3 cups in 3 years, man. I would gladly have that.
Dude, those 3 years, they had to be so freaking good.
Like 3 summers of just nonstop partying, man. I will say though, nothing was better than the summer of Ovi. That was just top level. Like, that was crazy.
I'm definitely partial to the first year Tampa won the cup in their recent run in 2020 when they went back and they had the big boat parade and everyone's they're freaking passing the Stanley Cup between jet skis and stuff, and I guess it was the second year that Vasi had it. Vasi's going around. He looks like Pyramid Head because he's wearing the freaking Conn Smythe over his head.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that would be such good times for the boys.
And God, that'd be so fun to be there. Your team wins the cup and you go to the parade. Like, man, there's got to be nothing like it.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
just like that rad party atmosphere, and also just like the boys freaking did it. Like, that's got to be sick.
Can't wait to go to the San Jose one in 5 years.
Oh yeah, it'll be a good one.
All they got to do, I've been saying it. As soon as I said it last episode, the more I think about it, I'm like, holy shit! Like just looking at what they have right now, and then their prospect pool coming up. All they got to do is just finish dead last, get the first overall pick. I think they're immediately right back in the hunt.
I don't
They
think.
just if they
I
just
think
get
they're.
one more elite like borderline franchise player to bring into the mix, like you can.
Yeah. I don't
They're
think that
running.
immediately puts them back into the mix. I think that definitely secures that they will be in the mix. But I think as soon as next year would still be
Only
like,
because they're
I
in a
think those
bad
guys.
division.
That's fair.
Like if they
But
get say they get Celebrini first overall, all of a sudden you have him and Will Smith into the mix, and then all you really need to do, assuming that the development goes the way that it has been, all you got to do is go out and grab uh a middle pairing defenseman. Maybe if you can get a kind of a low end top guy and you bring him in, like I think they're sniffing around a wild card spot, but
yeah,
they
it really
really
depends how
need to
good those
just suck
guys,
this year.
a lot of their guys develop and how quickly they're good, because
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of good young talent that'll be coming up.
And I will say this: I will never cheer against them this year. I will always cheer for the Sharks to win. I just won't be as upset as normal if they do lose, because looking at the big picture, a loss isn't the
It
worst thing
helps
for the
cope.
team.
It helps you cope a lot better with a loss,
Exactly,
because
exactly.
where I am with Tampa right now, I want them to go 82-0. Like, that's the dream. And every time they lose, there's no great, we're getting a better pick. Fuck those picks. They're out the window. So
Yeah, they don't
there's
even have their picks, so
yeah.
yeah. And
No.
and Sharks games will be more fun, exciting this year because it's looking like they're gonna have some prospects actually make the team and be a big part of the team, which they didn't really have it all last year. It was just a lot of veterans and kind of just fillers for the season. So there will be more excitement watching these young prospects that are going to be a big part of the team in the future.
Yeah.
But I'm still hoping for wins from them.
I think we're probably a good ways out from if we were to do it. But I'm just gonna throw it out there. What do you think of the idea of maybe streaming us watching a couple games this season?
Oh, we can easily do that.
Set up the game on the TV, and then I guess we wouldn't be able to show that, but we could, still have a camera on us, and we could hang out, have a couple brews. If any people want to come and hang out while we're watching the game, rib chat a little bit.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm just looking up here, just trying to get a. Oof. All right. Well, that one's. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I was like, we'll for sure do when um Tampa Bay is playing in San Jose, because I know that'll be a late game, and that's one that we can easily make work and whatnot.
Right.
But that's not till near the end of March, so we don't got to worry about that for a while.
Yeah, that'll be really
We got
good
like
when
a
we're
whole
trying to
season
when
before we get
Tampa's
there.
trying to secure the playoffs.
Yeah, and San Jose is trying to lock down that first overall pick, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see we'll see at that point on the standings if you're still cheering for them to win every game.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up this episode here.
Yeah, that was good. That was good conversation on a lot of those. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add, honestly.
Yeah, and just quickly before we hop off here, as we talked about before, I think once the NHL season starts, we're still going to stick with our regular uploads that come out every Fridays here. We might have a few extra special episodes mixed in here and there, just because lots of stuff will be going on throughout the season, and it's going to become harder. We're going to go from having really nothing to talk about to a whole lot, so it might be hard to get
Once a
it all to
week
fit
might not
into.
be enough. Yeah.
Exactly. So kind of depending on what's going on with the league, as big stuff kind of happens here and there, we will have extra episodes come out here and there, touching on some stuff that, we don't want to wait a certain amount of days to talk about, or it's just something that we feel like is big enough that it kind of deserves its own kind of spotlight for an episode. So
Yeah.
we'll
So
just kind of play it by ear and have a blast with it.
yeah. So whenever Edmonton plays Arizona and McDavid breaks the record for points in a single game with like 14, we'll expect a podcast the next day when
Yeah,
when he does
exactly
that.
right. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think that wraps up everything for this one. Thank you to everybody um, who stuck around with us and listened to this one, and get excited because the NHL regular season is quickly approaching. Thanks
Hockey
again,
season's
everybody,
coming.
and have a good one.